PLCs. Show of hands if you've heard of PLCs before, anybody? Okay, beautiful, beautiful. It's amazing how we know about things, but we don't do what we're supposed to do, if that makes sense. Like, I know I shouldn't eat Waffle House and Chick-fil-A all the time, but it's something about the Polynesian sauce that just calls me every single time. We know we should meet with our team and compare data. We know we should do our interventions, but at times we don't. And the unique thing about PLCs is that it's funny to me how some educators believe that they can only do it by themselves. I didn't tell you this earlier, but at the Ron Clark Academy, I don't have a classroom right now. We're expanding. So I have to share a classroom with Ron Clark every single day. I have to share a classroom with my boss every single day. And every single day, he'll look, Mike, you need to change this, fix this. The way your feet is towards the board, you need to make sure you're not turning and writing towards the board. Make sure you're using inflection, making sure you're looking people in the eye when you're talking to them. And what happens is, I've learned, in order to be a better teacher, you have to work alongside people to push yourself to be better. Nobody is strong in everything. So a basic definition, if you need it, because most of us here know what it is essentially people that meet together regularly and share expertise, and they work collectively to make sure they're going over data. Inside of our school, in my previous school, we didn't necessarily meet every day inside of a room for an hour with a given objective. Sometimes we will meet on Fridays at a restaurant with $3 well drinks, and we will talk about the data. Still a PLC. We're still talking about how can we make our instruction and stuff better, but it's just a different way to look at it. There's this quote that I love, and I want you to check it out. It says this: school climate is what's said in the staff faculty meeting. School culture is what's said in the parking lot after the meeting. We know it's true because we're go to the classrooms, the administrator gets up. This year, we want to focus more on community involvement. We want to focus on engaging our families, engaging our students, making sure we're using innovative ways to support them, making sure we're following our IEP with fidelity. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to do the best that we can by students, because we're a family, we're together, we're one. And while they're saying that, you and your coworkers are sort of looking at each other like this because you don't really believe them. Right? So I had to figure out how to fix that, because it's fair to say the statement, every person that's a teacher or an educator is not necessarily for children. It amazes me how we have people that don't like kids, but you're a teacher. We have to fix that, right? So there's this guy by the name of Anthony Mohammed, phenomenal resource that you might want to check out, all right? I'm gonna give you a little bit from his book. He is a specialist at transforming school climate and culture. All right, because we can talk about how to change our schools and make our classrooms better, but people fail to recognize that your classroom has a climate and culture that also feeds into the climate and culture of your actual school, right? So with that, he actually highlights a healthy school culture. If you look at it, it says educators have an unwavering belief in the ability of all of their students to achieve success. And they pass that on in overt and covert ways, which means they show it, and their actual data shows it, their actual behavior show it, the PBIS model shows it, how the school operates, it shows it in every facet. And most people believe, hey, we have a positive school culture, but that's not always the case. It's not always the case, right? Next, he has a toxic school culture. I want you to look at the exact terms that he uses, because it stuck out a lot to me, because I recognize that I think I was operating in toxicity at one point in time. Educators believe that student success is based upon students' level of concern, their attentiveness, prior knowledge, and willingness to comply with the demands of the school. And they pass it on in overt and covert ways. So teachers believe only students can learn, or the reason why students are not learning is due to these different types of things. It may play a small factor, but in reality, it sort of kills the climate and culture. As you read the book, he begins to highlight there are 4 different types of teachers in every school building. I want you to see if you can identify yourself or your coworker. If you're sitting with your coworker, keep your head straight. Don't look to the side. If your boss is right there, look directly at me. I'm gonna save your life today, right? Now, with this, we're gonna actually talk about the 4 different types of teachers, and you're gonna actually laugh, because I guarantee you, names and faces are gonna pop up inside of your mind, all right? Now, some people may say, well, Mr. Bonta, why are you starting out with this? It doesn't matter which strategies you take back to your classroom and school if the adults are not on one accord. That's what makes RCA so magical. You can look up a song or a YouTube chant on YouTube. You can look up an educational song on Yahoo. What makes our school so magical is that every adult is committed to making a phenomenal experience happen for students, whether we feel like it or we don't, okay? So with this, let's go through these different teachers really quickly, all right? Here we go. The first one is the believer, just like Drake. This person right here, this teacher has a picture of their students hanging on their ceiling, and they pray for them every morning when they get up, right? This person right here has a Ron Clark statue inside of their classroom that they high five when they walk past for some odd reason. Let me stop exaggerating. So they're flexible academically and behaviorally. This teacher, the believer, will not kick a child out at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning because they can't handle them. They find different strategies and ways to deal with the behaviors and the trauma and things that are going on in their classroom. They're not afraid to reach out for help. They're constantly in the mindset of, I need to do better. I need to figure out how can I teach this strategy better. This lesson went wrong today, but hey, tomorrow's a brand new day. I'm going to start over and I'm going to give it my all again. Most people believe that they are believers, all right, but sometimes it's not necessarily the case, all right? The next one is the individual that sort of seeps through all of our school systems. This person is called the tweener. Just like Kanye. You see how he smiles and then he just, bloop, it goes right away, right? Now this person is interesting because they're loosely connected to the school mission. They understand that all children and people can learn. They understand that students deserve the best, but they're not at the tipping point yet. This person is dangerous because they have something called a wall of silence. What is a wall of silence, Mr. Bonner? You go inside the staff meeting, the principal says this: I'm so proud of you all this year. And what we're gonna do, because we wanna build those deeper relationships, we wanna do home visits. We're gonna go and ride through the neighborhoods and sit down and actually talk to the families and build that social capital to ensure that students are having the best, realistic educational experience possible. Everybody in the staff meetings, yes, that's a great idea. When you disperse and go back with your grade level teams or even in your grade level group text message, the tweener says, nobody's doing that stupid stuff. I don't want to ride a bus. I got to get my nails done today. I don't even have gas in my car. You want me to ride and use the gas to get to the house? It's like the tweener smiles and then acts a different type of way. This is the coworker that talks about you behind your back but will never bring the information to you. This is the person that has a problem with everybody else and talks about the problem but will never take it to the person they have a problem with. They live in the mindset of passive aggressiveness. Being passive aggressive, excuse me. And what makes them so funny is that they can't exist alone. The tweener needs a pack of people to thrive. They need those negative Nancy's around them that sit in the corner during the staff meeting together and talk about everybody else, right? That's what the tweener is. You have to be careful with them because they can kill the school climate and culture. The next one, and I all have been here, the survivor. The survivor. Teaching is not easy. It is not easy. For some of us here, you're such a phenomenal teacher that you get that classroom or that student every year. And it's easy to burn out from. But the survivor is a little bit different. They are so burnt out. You see no aspirations in how they're practicing or their instructional materials and things that they're using. In fact, they create subcontracts with their students. So they say, listen, if you be good and walk towards the cafeteria quietly, I'll give you this whole bag of Sour Patches. Don't tell anybody. Everybody's at lunch eating the next day. Oh my gosh, look at them. They're walking so great. He's feeding them. That's why they're walking so great, right? That's what's going on, right? They have little to no professional practice at all. It's just the teachers that's just doing whatever inside of their classroom and just hoping magic happens, all right? Now let's go to the next one, the last one. And honestly, you all, Mr. Bonta, I believe in giving people great energy. I love connecting with people. I'm a family-oriented person. I love my kids to the deepest part of my soul. But one thing I don't tolerate is disrespect, which used to make our classrooms come together. I don't like disrespect. And this next person, teacher, likes to operate in disrespect sometimes. That's the fundamentalist, the last one. They are completely resistant to any type of change that comes inside of the school system. Prime example, we went to the Ellen show, we received over $155,000 that the county could not touch to use to the benefit of our students. Mr. Bonta contacted some people and decided to use the Ellen card. Hey, we were just on the Ellen, would you give us some free tickets to the African American Museum? They were like, sure, we'll do that for you. Let us know where you're coming up. Here's $25 for free. I presented to the actual staff, and the fundamentalist says, I don't want to be away from the school with these kids for 2 days. Fundamentalists. You want to rob a child's experience because of your insecurity and because of your personality. That is absolutely trash and terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself, right? The fundamentalist is extremely resistant. This is the person that believes in autonomy. So you go back to your school meetings and you have your lesson planning and you're getting along together and you plan your lesson for 2-3 hours, and then the next day they go away and deviate from the lesson plan and teach their own thing and then look at you like what when the data doesn't come out how it's supposed to, right? So with these 4 different types of teachers, it's pretty interesting that you have here. You have the believer, you have the tweener, which is Kanye, you have the survivor from the movie Bad Teacher, and you have Iron Man, who's the fundamentalist. I'm just joking, he's not a fundamentalist, right? So with these 4 teachers, I want you to talk about at your table, which teacher dominates your school the most? Which personality? If the fundamentals is sitting beside you, wink at me twice so I can come by and save you. But honestly, within this moment, I want to have a really genuine conversation. Which person dominates your school and stuff the most? And we'll hop to some questions next, all right? Go. You can go ahead and do it. All right, all right. If you hear Mr. Bonta, can you say, shh? Look at y'all. I'm going to show you how to do some caller responses and stuff later. It's pretty cool. So my question to you is this, and I like being close to the audience, but they have to be able for me to stand over this so we can see with the recording. So quick question, is it possible to transition through the different personalities as a teacher? Yes, it is. Okay, it is definitely possible. Out of 14 principals, I remember one suggested you need a $15,000 LED screen to put in the front of the school to make sure we show our announcements for when people drive by. I was like, somebody's gonna take that screen and do Netflix and chill in their house, and it may be me that take it, right? Like, I'm definitely a fundamentalist to you right now. But what I want you to understand is all these personalities have to figure out how to actually coexist inside of the actual school. So on the next slide is really quick. It says, as of right now, how would you rate the climate and culture at your school on a scale from 1 to 10? All right, and the last question, don't worry about that. My follow-up question to that is, how can you change it? All right, you can't say it can't be changed. It can be changed. What happens is sometimes we have to have those tough conversations, and sometimes people are scared to have those tough conversations. But what I've learned is, and I was sharing with the young man earlier, that I heard this quote that says, taking action and not taking actions are both still actions. Nothing is neutral. So you will have to eventually take action if you want some type of change to happen. So really quickly, as of right now, how would you rate the climate and culture at your school from 1 to 10? But before we get to that, raise your hand if your school is full of believers. Is majority believers. Don't be ashamed. That's a good thing. We want to come work with you. What you mean? Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, tweeners. You have tweeners in the house? All right. No wonder some of y'all was like, all right. What about the survivors? It's okay to be, you have some survivors in your school. Valentine's Day and spring break is coming, all right? So what about fundamentalists? Fundamentalists. Okay, you have some of those that packed up? Okay. So really quickly at your table, I want you to rate your school climate and culture and then figure out what needs to change in order for it to be better. All right? This is a cool way for you to release your kids, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Instead of just saying go, we train our students at our school, do not release until we release you. So we normally release them through some type of call and response. So I'm going to do this. Go. You're going to say, okay. All right? Now, as a teacher, you can mix it up. If I go, I won't do that. I'm just messing. Someone like, wait, what? No, so I'm gonna release you to do it, to rate your school and figure out what needs to change. Very simple. Let's see what you got. Go. Okay. That wasn't good. It wasn't good because some people would clap like this. You almost missed your hand. That's not. Did you drink during lunch? Like, wait, that's. Let's try it again. And when you introduce this back to your students or any strategy, make sure you start it up here. Because if you let them do the strategy or the procedure right here, it's going to go downhill for the rest of the year. We want to try to make it to June. So let's try it again. Go. Okay. Good job. Rate your school, 1 to 10. All right. If you hear Mr. Bonta, can you say, oh yeah? Oh yeah. All right, that was pretty decent. So I heard some great conversations, and I had a phenomenal question being asked to me as well. And the question was, and I'm sure some of you have thought about this, what happened if your principal is the fundamentalist? Or your principal is the tweener? They should be ashamed of themselves, number one, right? But after having 16 different administrative changes, I have found out when you have an administrator who is not seeing the vision of the school from one person's perspective, you must collectively come together and then try to present that to that person saying, hey, sir or ma'am or sir, this particular strategy or standard or expectation in our school is not working. It's not working that we write a student up that throws and tears our classroom up and then you send them right back to the classroom because it endangers the other students. Is there any other way that we can look at our behavior plan to figure out what needs to change? Because right now it's actually burning a lot of us out and we're really here just to do what's best for kids. I'm learning it's the actual delivery and how you're talking to the individual, okay? And it's not easy. Sometimes it's very scary, but it's definitely necessary. And what I told the person and others that if that does not work, you can definitely send an email to district office from an anonymous standpoint. I I definitely would. One day I'm gonna definitely tell the story of why I transitioned from South Greenville to the Ron Clark Academy, because every decision that's being made doesn't always benefit students. And sometimes people know it, but it serves interest, self-interest, and that's not okay, because we should be a little bit different. So here's a couple of tips really quickly for you, from me in regards to having success. As a person, my parents live on 3 acres, so you see bears and deer crawling in the back. You see the farms and stuff surrounding my parents' property. You learn a lot about agriculture. If you take a seed and take it back to a toxic environment or plant it somewhere that is not suitable for that to grow, you won't see any fruit at all. So you can get the best strategy today. You can have Ellen DeGeneres go to your school right now, but if the culture doesn't change, nothing will change. Ask me how I know, because it happened to me. You can get over $100,000. You can get 5 customized iPads, new TVs throughout the entire school. You can get community support, but if the people in the building do not recognize that we need to change the way we're talking to each other and working together, it won't happen, all right? So number one, I always tell people to join hands with believers. If you have a mentor, great. I had a mentor, but the person did not have kids first inside of their mind. So Chris Edmonds says this quote that says, you need to find yourself, you need to connect to somebody that you align to, not someone that you're assigned to. Find somebody that you're aligned to, not someone that you're assigned to, okay? And what that basically means is we all get assignments and things all the time, but more importantly, who are you partnering yourself up with every single day to help encourage you, to make sure that you're pushing forward? I have a whole team of 10 people, phenomenal, outstanding educators from every sexual orientation, from every ethnic background. They give me input every single day on how I can make my classroom better, how I can make my lessons better, and how I can make my speeches and things better. Because more importantly, you want to make sure that you're giving your children the best that you can every single day. The second one is you have to get away from the tweeners and reject all gossip and negativity, because they operate in packs. They cannot stand by themselves. Mr. Corey Collins, who I told you about earlier in my keynote, I love him because he gave this strategy to deal with tweeners. He was like, the next time you go back to school, because it's going to happen, and you're talking about things to change, and they come up to you trying to gossip, like, have you heard about John's marriage? Like, I heard it's actually ended, and he's taking that out on his kids in his classroom, and it's not okay. Mr. Collins said, this is what you're supposed to do. Hold your hands out and say, let's pray for him right now. Let's do it. Right? And what you'll notice, they'll look confused. They don't know whether to grab your hands, and they just may. And then you can turn them into a believer for real, right? So it's finding ways to avoid that. I run away from negativity. If you're talking about somebody else, I hit you, oh, really? That's how you feel? Maybe you should go tell them. I have to go grade papers, even though I really don't. You just take off, right? You have to have that mindset. You have to be aggressive about how to deal with negativity, because it's going to come. It comes from all forms, all different types of people, different types of seasons. You have to avoid that, all right? The next is encourage the survivors, all right? You never know when you're going to be in that season. Let's be very clear. For me, I remember being in the classroom, having a tough classroom, and then the administration moved a kid into my classroom in the middle of the year. Right? So you never know when you're going to be in that situation. For some of us here, outside of the classroom, some of us are dealing with personal issues at home. I know how it is to smile at school and stuff, and then inside you're really going through a tumultuous situation, and you're trying to figure out how to press through. It's smart to encourage those survivors, right? And the last, which is the most important one, you cannot deal with the fundamentals alone. You must understand that you should ask a principal how hard it is to fire a bad teacher. It's extremely difficult. You need a lot of documentation. Don't fight that battle. Just control what you can control, okay? Now, let's go to the next one, which is important. I talked to you about earlier with all the things of technology and creativity, but what I've learned quickly that there is a science to delivering information, which is why I told you about the whole brain teaching with the thumb and the thumbs up and thumbs down and the triangle and square. You should really try that as a game when you're having to kick back with your friends on a weekend, collecting yourself. It's the funniest thing in the world, right? But what I want to teach you today is I found out in my classroom when I was teaching 5th grade that most of my students were looking like this. They were not engaged. It was terrible. I would be scared to look at me teaching my first year of teaching or second or third year of teaching because I didn't understand the latest concepts and how to really engage the mind and engage the child. And I want to make sure I show you that one today, because essentially through something called whole brain teaching. The definition I showed you, or the research, or the quote I showed you earlier, people sort of back away from because it has something to deal with race inside of it. But if we say we want to teach and deal with every child and help them succeed, you have to look at that as well. They found out that in order to really help a child learn, you must engage the entire child, whole child in the brain. Everybody heard the call and response class? Yeah, it comes from whole brain teaching. And I will show you why those things and people implement those, all right? Now, with the definition here, this is the main thing as to why people use whole brain teaching, the mirroring and things so much, because when we were in school, we would memorize things and information. Whole brain teaching wants you to dive in and be with the actual content. And I'll give you a great example of that later. Notice how it says instruction must provide students with tools to not only recall information, but to engage their brains in thinking processes that promote generation of new thoughts. So in my classroom, yes, right now in 4th grade, I'm teaching about the American Revolutionary War. I'm talking about protesting and Bill of Rights and the 27th Amendments that are happening, but I'm also teaching them about the coronavirus. I'm also engaging them to think about public health. I'm also teaching them how last week it was at 3,000 cases. Now, apparently today from NPR, it's at 10,000 cases. I'm engaging their minds to think about how to deal with real life problems every single day, all right? So the very first concept of whole brain teaching, which I want to help you with, is through Scoreboard. It's behavior. Any of you here use Class Dojo inside of your schools? That's perfectly fine. There's thousands of programs that you can use. We use Class Dojo. I was a fan of it until I found out it's subjective. Because some people can give a child 20 helping other points before 9 o'clock. How did he help 20 people before 9 o'clock? I don't understand, right? Right? So I tried to transition to something with me that actually is extremely quick and extremely effective. Because at our school, at the Ron Clark Academy, you really get 3 chances. First name is a name on the board. That's a warning. Check. It's a silent lunch. 2 checks. It's a detention. We're making sure we're calling the parent at that second check because we're nipping it in the bud so we can go ahead and get back to our instruction that's happening at the school. Right? So with Scoreboard, I love it. You can't lose in this game. It's reverse psychology, and I love it. And it's mainly meant for middle school, but I use it in all the grades I've ever taught, from 2nd all the way to 6th. The students are the smiley face. We are the frowny face. And what happens is, it's really them versus you. Okay? And you set a reward at the end. Okay? So whoever wins gets an actual reward. If the students do good that day, you automatically win. If you win that day based on the rewards you pick, you can win as well. So for me, one of the great rewards they would do is if the students win, they want me to have silent lunch. And I remember them beating me one day. I'm like, oh man, I got silent lunch. But I'm smiling because I didn't want to talk to them anyway that day. Like, right? But if they lost, I would ask either for more sentences, I need another paragraph, I need you to cite another paper, I need you to annotate another additional close reading. I would make sure I challenge them a little bit more higher than what I was already doing. And what happens is it was forcing them to be a family, and they were starting to actually be the classroom managers of behavior in my classroom. So here's a good example. If I say class, and everybody here said yes, yes, with like a umph, and you felt it, you all would get a point. I'll just go to the board, mark a point. Get right back to teaching. If I say, okay, you all, I need you to work on this actual text with the Dear Basketball poem written by Kobe, I want you to annotate it and figure out what figurative or literal language do you notice inside of his poem in regards to love of basketball. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to check this out. Let me know what sticks out to you. If all of my groups do not finish, I get a point. If I ask them again, I need us all to line up to lunch. We want to head to lunch quickly because we're late and behind, and they do not do so, I get a point. And then I get a chance to receive my award. It starts over the next day, a clean slate. You may have a child who steps out of the parameters, and that is when you follow them through the actual school PBIS program. Take them through the warning, the parent contact, the silent lunch, the bounce to another classroom referral. But most of the time, what happens is if I say class, and everybody doesn't say class, and I get a point, they start to look at each other like, who didn't say it? Who didn't say it? We're trying to beat him today. Like, don't play with us today. It becomes a perfect thing. Why? Because we try to teach them how to work together as a family, but we don't really put them in a position to do so. And they can actually learn from each other's social emotional skills in that actual process. Okay? So that works great. All right? The next one, which is important, track me. Have you heard of the term tracking inside of education? Okay. Tracking is essentially making sure that the student's attention is on the teacher as much as possible. And I believe in using that because you want to make sure they're paying attention to everything that you have to say. The reason why I'm a firm believer in it, because of neuroplasticity with the mind that we talked about earlier, I believe we are addicted to our cell phones, including myself. Try this tomorrow. When you wake up, try not to touch your cell phone as soon as you get up. Some of us can't help it because the alarm is already on the cell phone, right? So. But I want you to try it. It's amazing how we have wired ourselves to be connected to something. So in the classroom, research is showing, and I went to a Google workshop in Atlanta, they said that the average attention span of an adult is 7 seconds of an adult. Everything is catching our attention. They say, how many ads do you think we see every single day on an everyday basis? And research shows we see at least 2,000 or more ads every single day, from the clothes we wear to the TV to the phones and everything that we have. So with that, research is showing, as always, because I'll try to give you a little bit of research every single time, we go through 105 words, or receive mentally, process 105,000 words, or 23 words per second in a half day. That's how much just information we take in. That is why you see such a rise in yoga, calm.com, downtime, allow them to breathe and de-escalate, because we now understand that our brains are on overload sometimes. So in my classroom, have you ever given your students actual information and trying to get them engaged before you give them a task, and they're not listening to you, and you say it 5 times and hope they all get it and one still did not hear you? I need my students to look at me just like this when I'm giving them information, okay? So I'm gonna show you what it's gonna be and watch how it's uncomfortable for you. Do me a favor, take things out of your hands really quickly. I need both your hands. Very simple procedure in your class. I only use it when I'm delivering quick information. All I have to do is say, track me. When I say track me, everybody here, you're gonna put your hands together like this at the same time, and keep your hands together and lock eyes with me. All right, we're gonna practice, okay? Really quickly. Hands loose, all right, good. Track me. That was okay, everybody wasn't together. It's gotta be like a church, everybody together with power. All right, I'm messing. All right, so here we go, track me. Make sure you keep your hands together. Now, some of you sort of want to take your hands apart, you can feel it. But right now, inside of this room with over 300 adults, I have every attention of every individual here right now, and that's the purpose of Track Me. You use it for 30 to 40 seconds, and you go ahead and move on. Now, what I need you to do is turn to the person beside you and say, I love you. There we go, let's keep on moving. Let's keep moving. Beautiful. Some of y'all said it more than one time. Y'all really do love each other. This is nice. Okay, so what I want to show you is that with whole brain teaching, I'm going to show you a lesson a little bit later. It's really quick. And what happens is I found out good teaching minimizes behavior. Good teaching in a good pace minimizes behavior. That's why when I go to class and Mr. Clark takes over his classes by A-B schedule and I sit back and watch him teach, he has his pace that he's moving and he'll make stop for 5 seconds. Then he'll take off again. And then he'll make sure he stays still, and then he'll ask him to track him. It's just a really cool thing, all right? The next one, we talked about this, okay, with the brain, is the call and responses. This is where you get to have fun as a teacher. Modify it. Education is the profession of modification. I have found out quickly that we are entertainers in the classroom. You determine the environment inside of your classroom. There is an overall school climate and culture, and then you have a climate and culture inside of your classroom. That's why you hear some kids say, such and such class is just boring. The climate and culture there is not really suitable for them to be excited about learning, all right? So with this, there's a couple of that I can show you really quickly that have helped me, but I'm gonna need you to put on your party voice like you did last night late at the bar before you had to wake up this morning. I appreciate that, because I would have been right there with you, all right, if I'm honest. So, the next one. I saw a kindergartners, man, I love them, right? Like at recess, they used to run between my legs and think I'm a jungle gym, and I didn't even know they were doing it because they're so small, right? What happened is the kindergarten was going down the hallway dancing like this early in the morning, and I'm about to give them a consequence because I thought they were being funny. It was like, no, Mr. Bonner, that's called the whipping nay-nay. My first question is, who is whipping nay-nay within a sport of time? They was like, no, it's a song. I'm like, these kids and these darn songs, right? They always have a song with a dance. So the song is, now watch me whip, now watch me nay-nay. I can't do it. You saw the awkward bounce? I can't do it. So, in the song, it goes, ooh, watch me, ooh, watch me. I said, oh my gosh, I could use it in class, all right? So that's what I want to do. When I say, ooh, watch me, you will simply say, ooh, watch you, watch you. With whole brain teaching, the students mirror the teacher. However you say it, they have to say it. If they don't say it correctly, who gets a point? Yeah, then it gets interesting. They start saying it with passion. They start talking to each other, right? So let's try it really quickly. I'm gonna say, ooh, watch me. You have to say, ooh, watch you. All right, here we go. Ooh, watch me. Ooh, watch you. Okay, so some sections went out last night, the other ones didn't. We're gonna get you going. It's okay, all right? Turn to the people at the table and say, pull it together, all right? Pull it together, here we go, all right? Watch how quick it is. Track me. See how people go, oh, wait a minute, what? See? I'm gonna show you later, it moves. Here we go. Ooh, watch me. Ooh, watch That's very good. Very simple, all right? Now, there are two educators that I respect deeply because I respect anybody that can make an idea come from here and bring it to fruition, okay? Hope and Wade King are two phenomenal educators we get your teach on. They have this call and response that they took from Finding Nemo, right? It's called shark bait. I like this one because it wakes up the kids that sleep a little bit, all right? So all I'm going to say is shark bait, and you're going to say shark bait, ooh ha ha, boom. But you have to hit the table with both hands. I be laughing at educators all the time. You have to hit the table? You know you want to do it anyway, right? So when I say shark bait, you have to say shark bait, ooh ha ha, boom, all right? I want to practice it really quickly. You got your hands free? All right, track me. Yeah, I get a point. I'm going to say shark bait, you say shark bait, ooh ha ha. Here we go. Shark bait. Shark bait, ooh ha ha. That's not bad for the first time. Good job. You ain't going to break nothing. We're fine. We're covered. The next one. In our classrooms, and for me, even before I was at the Ron Clark Academy, I believe in celebrating students who go above and beyond. A football player tweeted out one day, and I'm sorry if I'm not looking over here, y'all, it's that light behind me, but the football player told on Twitter, he tweeted that we have a generation that wants to be we have a generation of fish that wants to be awarded for swimming. And I believe him. I believe him. So in my classroom, if we're talking about Benjamin Franklin, we go through the different individuals that were very influential inside of the Revolutionary War, and you say, yeah, Mr. Bonta, Benjamin Franklin had a brother, and he had an alias name called Silence Dogood. I'm like, oh, that's great. Let's keep moving throughout our lesson. But if a student, which a fourth grader has, stands up, yeah, Mr. Bonta, Benjamin Franklin actually drew two political cartoons called The Join or Die. One was for the French and Indian War, and one was for when we were going to war with King George III. And not only did he do that, he was an influential inventor. And actually, he was very important to actually ending the American Revolutionary War. I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to celebrate that child because they heard all the content that I taught, right? So in my class, how do we celebrate? We celebrate with energy. We make kids feel good. We make each other feel good because they deserve to if you work hard to do that, right? So with that, we use Ric Flair. Yeah. See, some of you already know. You know, Ric Flair, yeah. So what happens if somebody do something good? We have to celebrate them. I would say give them some, right? So this sweetheart was working really hard in my classroom, which she has. She's been taking notes in a very beautiful way, right? And I go to her, I say, hey, sweetheart, what is 1 + 1? And she says what?
2.
Oh, she used her strategies. Did you see that? All you have to do is say, on the count of 3, we're going to give her some. 1, 2, 3, and you do this like this. Bop, bop. Woo! But that woo, they have to hear it all the way up to the top floor to make they think there's a party coming, okay? It's okay to yell. You're not going to die. Everything is fine. We're living life. We're alive. We're breathing. That's a blessing, all right? So when I say give them some, you got to bop, bop, bop. Woo! 2 hits. Bop, bop, bop. Try it with me really slowly. Bop, bop, bop. Yeah, but let that woo be a little bit stronger. Okay? Like when that wine hit some of y'all last night, or the bourbon, whatever you had, okay? Let's try it really quickly, all right? Here we go. So, excuse me, my love, what is 2 + 2?
4.
I knew you knew the answer because I knew I showed you those place value blocks. I knew it. So what we're going to do, on the count of 3, let's give her some. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you felt that? Let's make it even better. Do it on your table this time, because I did it on my lap because I don't have a table, all right? Let's make it a little bit louder, all right? I'm so impressed by all the amazing educators here on today. Excuse me, what is 3 + 3, my love?
6.
You made eye contact and she was tracking me. Let's give her some on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you heard that bass from that table that time? Look how adults are smiling and we're not even in school anymore, right? Right? I implore you to do whatever you want to with call and responses, but figure out a way to make your classroom a place that they don't want to leave. There's a teacher that I learned not too long ago. I forgot her last name. Her name is Allison, but she says, be the distraction that your students don't want to break away from. Be the distraction that your students don't want to break away from. I take pride in it every single day. This is my first year teaching 4th grade social studies and 6th grade reading. I have no idea how to maneuver the different standards or the curriculum maps or things that are going on, but I bet you bottom dollar by the end of this year, I'm going to be one of the best 4th and 6th grade teachers there because I'm going to figure out how to figure out how to make an experience happen in the classroom. And we all have that gift. I'm not any better than you. We're all a family together. You're just as special as I am. But it's all about creating the experience and making things happen. One of the call and responses for us, I'll say, life is a highway. And the kids come in all night long. And as they move to their stations, you just make whatever you want to make up. All right? Let's go to the next one. Mirrors. the most important part of actual whole brain teaching. I'll explain to you both reasons why. People underestimate the power of coaches in our school systems. Sometimes they send students with behavior problems to the coaches and not recognizing coaches are phenomenal teachers, especially those that have winning programs. With mirrors, I'm sure you've heard teachers say, mirrors up. That's where it comes from. So this is the most important slide next, and it's not a fidget spinner that you need to take a picture of to understand mirrors, okay? And I will break it down to you really quickly. It gives you 4 reasons for using this concept, but according to Edgar Allan, like I told you, according to 10% is the lowest form of learning, which is listening. According to the highest form of learning is doing. This part of the brain, the motor cortex, is body movement. That's where you learn most of the things that happen inside of your body or engagement or anything is through memory and moving with it. That's why some of us, you can remember your favorite concert right now, live concert with music. Your whole body was engaged. The lowest memory is the listening part of your brain, the area in your part of your brain that listens, that processes the different things that are going on in the audio sense, right? The different types of things that you see here, 1 through 4, allow students to mirror gestures between the teacher. So it's essentially modeling on steroids. Instead of standing at the board, okay class, we're going to cover this actual mathematical strategy to divide place value so you can understand regrouping. I want you to watch me, okay, and then go through this. Mirrors allows the students to do it along with you at the same time. So, 2nd grade teachers, anybody in the house, 2nd grade, can you make some noise for me? Say whoop whoop. That's what I'm talking about, 2nd grade. I love you. Thank you for that energy, okay? This is what happens. They know about these nonfiction text features. This is with informational text. We're trying to teach students, especially, I promise middle school and high school teachers, we're trying to get them ready for you, okay? But they have to go through these different text features in order to understand different types of text to work through it and navigate it. Okay? Now what happens is in most schools, we'll sit them down on the carpet, we'll talk to them about the text features. We may model it with Epic books on our smart board. We may even go as far as go to Pinterest and actually find a chart that looks really good, and we'll copy the chart and hang it inside of our classroom. All right? But whole brain teaching takes it up another level with modeling. And I'm going to show you a lesson really quickly with whole brain teaching. So this is what's going to happen, all right? I'm going to go back through all the track me, the ooh, watch me, okay? And you have to stay on point with Mr. Bonner because I'm going to teach you a lesson right now. We only had 15 2nd grade teachers raise their hand right then. Okay, 15 2nd grade teachers. So most people here do not teach 2nd grade. So I guarantee by the time I finish with this 2 or 3 minute lesson, you'll be able to do so. So do me a favor, stand up behind your seat really quickly. Dale's okay if I can move down to the chair? Ah, you're amazing. Hank, can you give me a little bit of music, just a little bit low? Can you give me the strobe lights as well so we can, I'm messing. All right, Mr. Bonner's about to teach you a lesson. Get your arms and stuff ready. This is what happens inside of my 6th grade class and stuff as well. Can you hear me clearly? Do I need to turn the music off? All right, so here we go. Track me. Not bad, but it could be better, so I get a point. Track me. Keeping the hands together. In this moment, Mr. Barnes is going to walk you through the nonfiction text features, and then later you're going to teach it to each other. When I say mirrors up, you say mirrors up. Does everybody understand? Yes. Does everybody understand? Yes. Here we go. Mirrors up. Mirrors up. Mirrors up. Mirrors up. Title. Good. Table of contents. Table of contents. Maps. Maps. Photographs. Photographs. Diagrams. Diagrams. Good. Headings. Headings. Important words. Important words. Glossary. Glossary. Timeline. Timeline. Chart. Track me. What was the first nonfiction text feature that I taught you on today? Title. Let's give her some on the count of 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Good job. Track me. I want to run through these text features one more time, and then you're going to teach it to the person beside you. Why? Because teaching it to each other will help ingrain the information more. All right, here we go. Mirrors up. Mirrors up. Title. Title. Table of contents. Table of contents. Maps. Maps. Photographs. Photographs. Good. Diagrams. Diagrams. Headings. Headings. Important words. Important words. Glossary. Glossary. Timeline. Timeline. Chart. Chart. Track me. In this point in time, you have to turn to the people at your table and see if you can go through all the text features together to see how many you can remember. I'll bring you back in. Don't start yet. I'll bring you back in 30 seconds. Remember how I release you. And look how every adult is paying attention. Here we go. Go. Okay. Good, go ahead. All right, here we go. Ooh, watch me, watch me.
Ooh, watch you, watch you.
Ooh, watch me, watch me.
Ooh, watch you, watch you.
Not bad at all. You can do class, class. I didn't say mirrors. You see people out there doing like this. Y'all, I wasn't even doing nothing. I was wiping my eyes. It was like, watch you, watch you. I love y'all, right? So I was talking to Mary. Mary was talking about culinary arts, correct? So she was like, Mr. Bonta, how can I apply this to my actual teaching? I said, hey, you can do a certain hand signals for a teaspoon or a cup. You can do a certain signal for spices. It's just making sure taking information to ingrain it inside of their mind after the content is taught. Does that make sense? Okay, you all can sit down, okay? We got you. Do I have any questions as of right now in regards to any of this? Okay, we'll make sure we're good. So, this is great. She says, how do you...
Teacher, like, cause I do stuff on like I'll get all crazy and I'm just winging it and then I forget.
So check this out. That's fair because I just taught a new set of vocabulary, which I'll show you next, okay? I was at some table, it was this one, and one lady forgot it, and the partner showed her. She was like, oh no, this is chart. So what happens is when I'm teaching my kids and I forget, they'll remind me, which makes us a family, which brings us closer together. In my class, when I'm creating something, you make up the gesture this time, right? If you look at athletes, quarterbacks, they're doing audibles and they're doing what? Signs. And the players are processing. Did you know whole brain teaching is so powerful that students, babies, infants can learn sign language before they learn how to talk? We can do it. Watch this. What is this? Title. Good. My baby's so smart. She said, that's writing, Mr. Bonta. You get a dojo point. You better go, right? All right. What is this one?
Glossary. Chart.
Good. Good. You don't teach, he got 8 out of 10. He doesn't teach second grade. Our students are absolutely brilliant, but the science to teaching is what makes the difference, all right? Now, the person to the right of me, Mr. Corey Collins, I am first to admit if I don't know something. I will tell you. I don't know, but I'll get right back to you. I can find out for you. So Mr. Corey Collins has been teaching reading. He's a reading master. He just knows his stuff. And what happened is when I transitioned from my school to the Ron Clark Academy, and we had some visitors there that was here, some from people came in September, some came down, they would tell you there is no kidney table for reading. There is no guided reading stations. My whole world was shocked. Well, how do I teach reading, right? So at our school, one thing that we do, students are supposed to learn 3,000 to 4,000 new words every year. We know that is almost impossible with 180 days. But what we do is we explicitly teach vocabulary. We purposely teach vocabulary. So if we're doing a close reading, a small passage, I'll find the vocabulary words that they're not given, and I'll make an assessment for it. I'll show you. If we're doing a graphic novel, Dear Martin, or The Misfits is what I'm doing right now. The Misfits is about 4 middle school 7th graders. One is overweight, one is homosexual, one is super tall, she's a young lady, but she's extremely brilliant, and the other one is skeezy. Skeezy just has dirt under his fingernails and stuff all the time, right? But it's called the Misfits because they are 4 kids that don't fit in, but they form their own community. Because after reading Dear Martin, I need my kids to understand that just because somebody looks like you, somebody outside of your ethnicity is dealing with struggles and stuff as well. Okay? I don't want you to be closed-minded to think that you're the only one that has problems. Everybody has problems, so can you show empathy? So what happens is I'll teach them vocabulary, and I'll give you a good example. All right? So this is what happened. I'll tell them, hey kids, this was the Benjamin Franklin passage. Inside of Benjamin Franklin's passage, he fabricated a name because his brother wouldn't let him write for his newspaper. That's where Silence Dogood came from. So what happens is 4th graders don't know what fabricate means. So I would turn to them with the hand gesture, and I'll say class, and they may say yes, yes, and they may be looking at me and they're tracking me. I'll say, based on the image right here, what do you think fabricate means? What do you think fabricate means? I want you to turn to the person or people at your table, and I want you to talk to each other about what does fabricate means. And what will happen is I'll release them, go, they'll say, okay, turn and talk to each other, and then they will discuss this. I'll let them dive into it. You can get a picture. Mr. Collins uses pictures. I use GIFs. Google, type in a certain type of word, download it. It's very simple. When they come back, and I bring them back in, this is where the magic happens. I'll ask for responses. The kids will stand up. Well, Mr. Bonta, I'll ask them, can you tell me what fabricate means? Give me an example. Mr. Bonta, one time that I know somebody fabricated something was my older cousin when they made a fake ID to get into the club. I just made it up in context, right? They didn't say that. But what happens is you'll see different kids starting to say different types of things. Now, this is something you need to use. When we were in school, we hated using the dictionary, right? But now there's a website called Collins Dictionary that you can go to, all right? So write down Collins Dictionary. Now, Mr. Bonta has modified his breakout session because normally breakout sessions, the computer's right beside me and I'll show you, but because the rooms, you can't do that. But I'll show you a little bit later as I go to the computer, I have a way to do it. Collins Dictionary condenses the definition for all students to understand, right? So when they finish telling me the responses, I just click next to the definition and look at the definition Collins Dictionary gives me. If someone fabricates information, they invent it in order to deceive people. Quick definition, they can learn it, they the gesture for it, they use it in context, we can move on. So when they read fabricate inside of the actual close reading, they can understand what it meant for Benjamin Franklin to fabricate something. He was trying to deceive his older brother. Let's go to another one. I'm gonna let you practice it. I'm gonna model it for you with you this time so you can understand the pattern and pace of it, okay? So, hardships. Hardships, okay? Class, as you look at the actual screen on today, and you know we use these in text messages anyway, so you can find them anywhere. As you look at the actual screen on today, I have the word hardships on the actual screen. Here's another note. They must use the gesture every time they say the word. So every time you say fabricate, they must use fabricate, all right? So I say, oh my gosh, kids, can you talk to each other at the table really quickly about a time that you had a hardship? And what I would do is I will release you. So I'm gonna release you to talk about a time that you know one of your students or you dealt with a hardship, okay? Here we go. Go. Okay. Good. Time that you dealt with the hardship and you must use the gesture, okay? That's good. Nobody dealt with hardships. That's beautiful. Look at our blessed life. This is amazing. I am so sorry. It screamed at me. That was a hardship right there. Look at you. Oh, yes. Good job. Love y'all over here. Yes. Love it. All right. All right, here we go. So, what will happen is you'll bring them back in. When you bring them back in, you'll ask them for examples. Hey kids, when's the last time you had a hardship? Somebody would say, I had a hardship when Mr. Bonta graded me and gave me a 0 on my homework. Or I had a hardship when I asked the girl out for Valentine's Day coming up, Mr. Bonta, she said no, right? They're using the vocabulary in context. Why? There are 3 tiers of words, 3 tiers. Tier 1 is language we use every single day. That doesn't take any type of high utility. Wall, ball, light. You have tier 2 words that you may use, okay? Things a little bit more specific, you know, I mean, like a Mercedes, that's more specific. Some people just say car, you can say Mercedes. Tier 3 words is academically specific type words. So like photosynthesis, algorithm. I don't know a lot of people walk around saying algorithm and photosynthesis a lot, unless they're trying to be a pundit, which is a vocabulary word. See how I did that, right? So, what I want us to do now, all you have to do is go to the next one. Collins Dictionary, very simple. All right, very simple. All right, let's go to the next one really quickly. Prosperous. Benjamin Franklin was prosperous. He was a very influential a very influential person. So I will show them, you know it. See how simple that was? Kids, when was the time that you were prosperous? During the summertime, some teachers aren't prosperous because that check hasn't cleared yet and we don't have 12 months pay. Like it's, right? But it's something in the definition right there. Prosperous people, places, and economies are rich and successful. And by the time we get through it, they can rock and roll, all right? Now, let's go into the next one because I have you for 18 minutes. Do I have any questions about vocabulary or any of those things? I gotta do a better job of that. Any question, any suggestion, and then we can keep pushing. So, there's people that I respect, and I think I'm this person when I'm in the shower, it is Bruno Mars. Right? The reason why I respect him because as educators, we fail to recognize that we are entertainers. The moment that I recognize that when I stand in front of that classroom, you're there to put on a show tied in with academics, that's when my classroom started to become addicting, and I was a distraction that my students did not want to lose or get away from. So inside of our classrooms, I try to figure out what are ways that I can actually be a distraction to them. How can I engage them in a way? As a man, as a human being, I don't want to be the weak link or the teacher within my building that kids don't want to go to. If I see somebody doing something great, I want to figure out what they're doing so my class can be great as well. And this person by the name of Brian found out that with an actual article in Edutopia. Every article or research that I show you all is a 5-minute read. I don't believe in listening and looking at 20 different pages. He talks about how the first 4 minutes of class and the last 4 minutes of class are the most important parts. Because how you engage them and how you wrap up your lesson is everything. So he actually goes 4 different ways for you, and I'll show you. And I have a really fun way to show you after we get through this particular slide. So the first one is trends that begin with the lesson, okay? 4 ways to begin a lesson. First one you can do, YouTube, edpuzzle. They have different applications that you can put a video in and stop the video at a certain point to ask a question before the video continues. I've seen times I show the video to kids. When I'm showing the video to kids, it goes for 3 minutes straight. They can't remember what happened in the first 30 seconds. That helps prevent that, okay? The next one is start with good news. Please write down that podcast at the top right-hand corner, NPR, up first. It is a 10-minute podcast every morning about the things that happen in our society. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of seeing Facebook politicians. Let me give you even more context. Mr. Bonta, my students will never know if I'm Republican or Democrat. And I think the people that came to my school probably saw me touching on some of these issues. Please hear me, and please hear me on this particular point. If you don't get anything from me today, sometimes I think the education system helps assist the ignorance that's inside of society. We are scared to talk about politics. We are scared to talk about students with different sexual orientation. And the moment that we operate in fear, we don't expose our students to better. How can they be phenomenal leaders and legislators and people who make great ideas and equitable solutions if they are not informed about what's going on around them? I challenge you, if you ever come to my school, I'm willing to bet your mortgage payment on it. Ask my 4th graders about anything in regards to politics or society, and they can tell you more than an adult knows. Because I want them to be informed. I want them to know what's going on. And NPR Up First does that. Every day we'll start with 1 or 2 current events. I think I put out a current event this week with Kobe Bryant, Dear Basketball thing, and it just took off by itself. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just knew my students were hurting, and I knew for me to try to teach a lesson while they're hurting is probably not the smartest idea. I used the current event, taught them about perseverance, taught them about how Kobe Bryant, when he was playing against Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, he kept getting mad because Dwayne Wade would foul him right here when he would shoot. Kobe Bryant was so determined that he went and picked up a staff person from the Lakers, went back to the court at 11 o'clock that night, and told the staff person to foul him like this on purpose every time he shot, so he can get used to it and win the next game. I taught them about perseverance and grit, changed their entire perspective. You should try starting with good news, helping them be informed. The next two, cross disciplines, integrating different lessons and things together. In our class, we were talking about how King George III was putting in intolerable acts that was actually making citizens and them pay more money with taxes. So I began to talk to them about stocks and bonds, talk about investments within their community, talking about property, talking about how the stock market operates. And all of a sudden, my 6th grader went home to his mom, was asking for her social security number because he was trying to open up an investment account. Like, it was the funniest thing, right? But it showed me that they were listening. They showed me that they were listening. I want to be the teacher that when they leave, they can thank you for teaching me that. And I know it's not necessarily a part of the standard, but I know it will help them in the long run. The last one, number 4, write for 5. You don't have to necessarily start each day with an essential question or writing, but a child must write at least 5 minutes a day. And I'm going to show you research to prove that later. If you struggle, so Mr. Bonta, one of my struggles is, number 1, my coworkers, most of them, Mr. Clark, Dr. Jones, Ms. Bearden, they're great at designing things. They see ideas. Mr. Bonta's better at delivering information and getting things out. And what happens is, when it comes to making up phenomenal questions, not a basic question, sometimes I'm not the best at that. I have to search around and spend more time with it. So the link at the bottom, and I'll make sure they'll send this out to you all, this presentation, for those who are trying to take pictures. It's called Essential Questions by Grant Wiggins and Jay. And they're actually on ASCD.com, and they actually give you an entire list of questions that you can use and modify for any lesson. Just fill in the information that you need in order for it to be effective, okay? Now, let's go to the next one, 4 ways to end a lesson, okay? You have Kahoot, you have My Quizzes and GIMP Kit. We like playing Candy Crush and staff meetings. Let them play a little game at the end of our lesson, okay? It'll be okay. The next one, exit tickets. I use that for social studies, reading, what's the person's name, when it is, put the page down and when the plot changed within the story. Just giving them that chance to actually wrap up everything that we've learned. What's the vocabulary words that we covered today? How many did we cover today? Small things like that. The next one, mimic social media. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, and I would love to message you, I love interacting with people. Right now, mimic social media. I'm trying to be a practitioner and practice what I'm teaching and what I'm speaking to you today. My 6th graders have been tasked to build their own podcast using Anchor FM. So yesterday, we hired a CEO. It's really cool. It's the first CEO ever of Bonneville, and it's a nice, beautiful young lady. And then we have a CFO who runs all the finances in Bonneville, which is a nice 2 young ladies. So it's great. The boys like, this is so cool. We have women leading this actual company, right? And what happens is they have to build their own podcast and talk about the content that we cover. The last one is Post-it Power. Taking things and posting around the classroom that actually affirm things that you've taught or any current news that's going on. All right? Just keeping them engaged with the actual content. Now, for some people, when I told them to share good news, they looked at me like I was crazy. Mr. Bonta, it's very simple and rudimentary. Nobody has time. My older kids are not going to pay attention to that. One day, the governor's wife came by my classroom with her Secret Service people. And when they came in, she came to our classroom, and this was her having the time of her life with the 2nd graders. This is a moment because this is actually shot. That's Jared. Jared is one. Jared and Paris, they phenomenal young men. They were in college at the time. They came by, and that's why he's smiling, because I remember that moment because I announced to them about the free trip and stuff. All right. Now, raise your hand if you've used Kahoot. Okay. Raise your hand if you've used My Quizzes. Okay. Now, I have found an application. Imagine Kahoot and My Quizzes having a baby. I have found the application that you're going to use Monday, I promise you. So during this point in time, I'm going to set it up. Hank's going to cut on the music really quickly. This is a good chance for you 2 to 3 minutes to stretch your legs, stand up and stretch your body. You will need a device to play this, and we'll get ready to rock and roll, okay? Because my computer's not up here. Thank you so much. We'll bring it back. All right, everybody, so thank you so much. What's going to happen is I'm going to run the computer from back here by Hank, and you're going to actually have your device and stuff, and the information will be on the screen. So I'll be talking to you, but you don't have to look at me or track me. I'm going to guide you through it. This new program that I want to show you is going to blow your mind. I bought the Pro version, and the Pro version was $35, and it was worth it. I stopped eating at Waffle House and Chick-fil-A for a month to afford it, okay? So this game, it is called GIMP Kit. It is called GIMP Kit. It looks just like this. One of the best games possible. If you have Quizlets, you can input your quizzes or things into this application. And I'm going to show you, this is how you know that I'm a man of my word. You see Sadler Unit 3 Set A. That's their new vocabulary I've been teaching 6th grade. So I'm going to show you how we actually review it after I teach it to them. I'm going to simply go to click play. In that play, it looks just like Kahoot in a sense. Okay? So as you scroll down, you can play classic mode or you can play team mode. What I love the most about this is GIMP Kit is on your phone or device. It is not on the actual screen. You know, Kahoot, you have to stretch your neck to see all the answer choices. It's already on your phone. Okay? This game also has secret modes that comes in. Last month they had the Thanos mode. Thanos mode, the winner has to collect all the stones and they press snap at the end. And you see kids staring at each other to see who's going to disappear in the game. Like it's pretty fun. This game, you can put in as many questions as possible. Let me see if I can zoom. There we go, Mr. Bonta. You better use your technology skills from 6th grade. All right, here we go. You can set the game as long as possible. So in this point in time, because you got to get out of here in the next 3 minutes, I'm going to put it for 2 minutes really quickly. It operates off of money, not points. I love it. Financial literacy, getting them used to using money. You can buy power-ups within this game. One power-up that the kids like to use is when you get enough money, you can actually freeze somebody's iPad from them answering a question. Next thing you know, my students who are very high, my AP students, boy, they have fire in their eyes trying to compete with each other, okay? All right? You also have the answer check. This is the actual box to allow you not to, students to drop down a certain amount. We're not going to cut the music on for the sake of time. You can clap, and all you have to do is simply put the time in and press continue. And everybody will log in just like Kahoot, just like that. So gimpkit.com/play and put the code in. All right, we'll bring it back in. We'll start the game up in 45 seconds and see what you got, okay? I'm going to start it on purpose to show you. The game will be on your phones. As you notice, as you logged in, it shows you a little screen about get ready. If you touch that screen or move past it, it turns into an actual white pad that you can draw on because we know kids want to do something while they're waiting. It minimizes behavior. All right, I'm going to start the game, and it goes just like this. The game is on your phone. All right, on the screen, it will show me a graph of how my class is doing. And we have some people that know their vocabulary. There you go. We will play it for 30 seconds just so you can see. Now, if you touch the top left-hand corner, it should give you a tab, and you can go to the shop. And when you go to the shop, you can buy a power-up. You can multiply your money that you're making. You can freeze somebody that's number 1 right now. So Grace is number 1. So if somebody wanted to freeze Grace, they could. Grace is like, how dare you, Mr. Bonner? All right. Beautiful. Betsy is taking the lead. Now I'm going to end this game on purpose because we got to get you out of here. All right. So when you end the game, it looks just like this. See, if teachers enjoy it, that's a good thing, right? And it will show you reports and different things that you can use. That makes it absolutely amazing, okay? So the last thing I want to tell you all before you get out of here, because it's time, 2 things. Number 1, the next session will not be different because the flash drive has that only breakout session up there, and I'm not operating my own computer right now. So if you would like to go to another session, that's great. The second thing, the only thing I need you to understand, in order to become a better educator, it just starts in here. It just starts in here. Some of you are doing some amazing things in your school. Just keep being consistent with it. If you text that number, I'll be texting it back on the airplane like I always do. I love you. Have an amazing day, and hopefully I get a chance to chat with you soon, okay? Thank you. Thank you.